Want a place where your child can get excited about learning about God? Children's Ministry at Good Hope is a place where your child will be taught to love God, love all people, and change the world through age-appropriate activities, interactive worship, sports, music, and art. Through our Gospel Project Sunday Worship, weekly Awana Bible Clubs, Upward Sports League, and Summer Vacation Bible School, your child will be ministered to year-round. Remember, your child is a gift from God.
Where the joy is indescribable at the right time, a time when anything is possible. We are a family, and together we are unstoppable. A place of love, we are a light in a dark world. We are
Here's my $100. That's what the woman shouted out in church. They were raising this offering, and they had already received the offering from everybody else, and she ran down to give her envelope. Now, was it necessary for her to shout out the amount? No. But obviously, she was giving and shouting so that other people would hear her. I'm Dr. D.Z. Cofield, Senior Pastor of the Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Word of Hope Ministries. As we continue our message, How to Give to Meet the Needs of the Poor, in our message today, the Lord teaches us that our giving should never be done with the hopes of being recognized by the public. Our giving of alms to meet the needs of others is not because of a public display. We're not seeking the applause or the accolades of other people. The Lord says our giving should be in secret. Now remember, it's not just what you do that the Lord is concerned about. It's how you do it. Now, some people go as far as to give anonymously. That's certainly your prerogative. And I'm not saying you shouldn't put your name on an envelope. What I am saying is when you have to announce and pronounce what you are doing and all that you're doing, look in the mirror and check your motives. Those religious leaders, they made sure they gave so everybody could see and go, wow, look at how righteous they are. And the Lord says more than the accolades of men, you should be concerned about what heaven sees in your giving, because God not only looks at what comes out of your hands and out of your hands, God looks more importantly at what's being given from your heart. Let's get to our message. Here's the second thing I want you to see. Number 2, make sure you bless the needy in secret and not to be seen by others. Make sure you bless the needy in secret and not to be seen by others. Matthew chapter 6, verse 2. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. Jesus knows you can do the right thing for the wrong reason. And so Jesus says, when I look at the offering, especially for the offering of the poor, I want to check not what comes out of your hand, but what's in your heart. I want to check the motivation behind why you give. Now, the Lord uses the word trumpet to describe the giving that hypocrites do. And that word trumpet can be a little misleading because there are some who would think, well, the hypocrites walked down the street and they had somebody blowing a horn. And when they blew that horn, that's when they went in and gave their offering. And that's actually not what was going on. When you look at it in its historical context, the word trumpet described that which they placed their offering within. As a matter of fact, it was literally called in the Talmud a trumpet or a trumpet-shaped alms box. Now, if you look at the picture of this alms box, look at it on the right side, and you see somebody dropping in coins. That alms box was created and made out of brass. Now, you need to understand that people didn't have paper money during that time. Because during that time, in that part of the world, paper money would have disintegrated, it would have dried up and would have been no good. So people carried around coins of various denominations. The larger the coin, the more noise it made when you put it into that trumpet offering box. And so people would walk up, and they would make sure that they walked up when the marketplace was crowded or when the temple was crowded. And then they drop a whole lot of coins in there, and you'd hear that rattling, and people would turn around and look to see who was it that put all of that in the alms box. And man, boy, they really love the poor, don't they? They really care. And in that moment, they received all the reward they were going to receive because they didn't give with the right motive. They gave to be seen and not just to be a blessing. See, that sounding trumpet, that rattling sound that offering would make, it would draw attention to yourself. It was literally self-applause. It was like, and then they would stand there and look. Oh, I'm sorry for making so much noise with my offering. Go on about your business. It's no problem. They also gave, seeking the adulation of other folk in the religious community. I was at a church one time, and they were receiving the tithes and offerings, and people came down and they were marching to bring their offering. And one lady in particular missed the offering period. And as the brothers were about to take the offering back in the back, oh, excuse me, hold on. You forgot my $100. And literally walked all the way down from the back. I was visiting this church. I was sitting in the back. She literally walked down, and no, she didn't walk, she sashayed. That's a special walk, y'all. She sashayed her way down to the front and held her envelope up high to make sure everybody saw the offering that she was giving. But it says also that trumpet could be sounded in the streets because you wanted the praise of the public as well. See, you wanted to be known as a benefactor of society, a philanthropist. You care, you give. You're such a wonderful person. And Jesus says when you give to be seen by others, you got all the reward you are ever going to get. As a matter of fact, what's the word he uses to describe people like that? Hypocrites. 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 Hypocrites is the word, right, in the Greek. And it literally refers to a person who puts on a show or puts on a mask pretending to be someone that they are really not. Now, typically, we like to apply the word hypocrite to people, especially in the church. You probably heard somebody say something like that, right? Yeah, you got all these hypocrites in the church. See, here's the mistake that we make. The problem is not that we are sinners. The problem is when we preach and teach like we are above sin. And so when you preach and teach and you look at somebody else and condemn them as if you are sinless, when they see sin in your life, they call hypocrite Because what they're saying is what you are teaching and what you are condemning them of, you are doing the same thing. But Jesus takes this idea of hypocrisy to another level. Because Jesus says, even when you're doing the right thing, if you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason, you are simply pretending to be something you are really not. And so he says in verse 2, look at what it says. Thus when you give to the needy, thus when you give to the needy, thus when you give to the needy. When you give, giving is assumed. Everybody should give. When you give, Jesus says, check out how you're giving. Because here's what he wants you to know. Truly, when you receive adulation from yourself, or adulation from other church folk, or adulation from the world, when you receive that adulation, you have received your reward. Now, you might have noticed something around Good Hope. You may not have. You have not seen in the last 23 years anything built on this campus with anybody's name on it. And I want to tell you the history behind that. So several years ago, I went to a conference, and I went to a workshop entitled Building to the Glory of God. I went to that workshop. This was long before I came to Good Hope. I didn't even know Good Hope existed. But I went to this workshop because I wanted to find out how to build. I didn't go in trying to find out how to do it to the glory of God. That was a byproduct of sitting in the workshop. And the facilitator of that workshop said something that was interesting. And he posed it as a question. He said, when we build something to God and we put our name on it, is it still being built to the glory of God, or has it become our personal monument? Man, I was like, wow, right? Because I thought about all the stained glass windows in the church that I grew up in that had somebody's name on it, and the pews that I had seen with little brass plates on the end of it, right? I mean, I thought about fellowship halls and buildings that were named after people. Now, I'm just telling you my experience, okay? I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just telling you, when I sat there, I said, oh my God. I said, do we even realize? And then I saw a caricature later on, a cartoon, and it was talking about how far we have gone in the realm of naming rights in our society. And so we put people's names on everything. And it showed a picture of the church. With the baptism, it had a name attached to it. Wonderful water pools, will meet your baptism needs, right? And then they had chairs and they had names on it. And the preacher, it had a disclaimer in the robe. His robes are sponsored by, right? That everything in the church had been sold. And so I asked myself, can I in good conscience, do I need the Cofield Fellowship Hall? And if I put my name on it, is it about me or is it about God? Because see, over and over again, we say our name doesn't matter. But over and over again, we want our names remembered. We want our names on something. We want folk to know that we've been here. And it's really not about us. Now, we say it because it's the spiritual thing to say, but we really don't live it as we should. We want to be recognized. We want somebody to call our name, even though we say we really don't want it. We really do want it. Let me give you an example. So one of my best friends, he passed away several years ago from cancer. But I mean, this was my boy. I mean, I met him when I moved to Dallas. He's from the East Coast. Man, that was my boy. I mean, we just hung out, man. He encouraged me. I encouraged him. I was in seminary. Then as I was finishing up, he decided to go to seminary. He was a broke student. I was working. And, man, we go out to eat. You know, I pick up the tab every time. Matter of fact, when he graduated from seminary, he didn't let me pick up a tab again when we went out and ate together. He said, man, I owe you so many meals, man. I don't care where we go, man. I'm picking up the tab. And I was like, man, brother, look, you know that. But, we were tight. Thick as thieves, tight. Ace Boone Coon. We were tight. That was my boy. Right? Well, when he graduated from seminary, his wife put this dinner on. And so she invited all of his friends and family to celebrate his graduation, right? And this is a brilliant dude. This is like his third master's degree, right? Just absolutely brilliant guy. So we're sitting there and we're laughing and joking and whatnot. Now, I did absolutely nothing for any glory. I loved him. Man, that was my brother. But he gets up at the end, and so now it's time, and he wants to thank everybody who's been there for him while he went through school, right? So, in my flesh, I'm like, well, I know you're gonna call my name, let me get ready to get up real smooth and, do it in a very spiritual way, But, so he gets up, man, first I want to thank God. Man, gotta thank God first, Like, I ain't trying to get before God, right? You gotta thank God, right? I'm gonna thank my wife. Oh, yeah, man, come on, brother, look. Happy wife, happy life. You got to start with the wifey, right? Thank God for his wife, and she's been there with him through it all, and thank God for his children. Hey, man, you got to thank God for your children, And then he moved and thank God for my parents, because my parents, they've supported me and prayed for me, and I wouldn't be who I am today without my parents. And, oh, man, hey, man, you got to thank God. And so he goes down the list. He ain't called my name yet, but that's okay, because there's still time. And then he said, and one final person I want to thank. I said, all right, it's getting to me now. He said, man, this brother has been such an encouragement for me. I said, yes, sir, I know you don't. He said, man, I wouldn't have been able to get through school without this brother. So, I'm already practicing how I'm going to stand up now, right? When he calls my name, I'm like, oh, that's okay, you didn't need to do that, man. Love you, man, Come on, man, right here, Man, I wouldn't have made it through school without this brother. Man, there were times that I wanted to quit. And this brother encouraged me, man, tell me to go on. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, I don't remember doing that, but I probably did, okay, And he said, man, I want to thank this brother, man, because this brother's helped me so much. And he called somebody else's name. Y'all, I was crushed. Now, come on, now, listen. In my spirit, hey, man, you ain't got to call my name. Dude, I ain't got nothing but love for you, right? But in my flesh, my flesh started doing all kinds of stuff, man. I started transforming inside, man. I'm like, man, I was turning into Megatron. I was like, oh, yeah. It was like, you didn't call my name. I was getting mad. I was feeling this thing. I'm like, he didn't call my name. Now I played it off like nobody knew. But I played it off, you know what I mean? But inside, man, I was hurt. Now don't act like I'm the only one. Because y'all know, even though you don't need your name called, if other folks' names are called and your name is not called, in your flesh. And God had to challenge me. Why did you do it in the first place? And the Lord said, if you got a thank you down here, that would end you for all of the rewards that you could get beyond his words. That's why when Jesus says they have their reward, when they get the accolades of people on earth around them, they got their reward. They had their reward. And that phrase for they have their reward is an accounting term, and it literally means payment has been made in full. There's nothing else owed. You got whatever you were going to get. See, we typically give, but there's a part of us that wants to be seen, that wants to be recognized. But look at Psalm 49, verse 12. But their fame will not last. They will die just like animals. Psalm 49, verse 17, let's read it together. For when they die, they take nothing with them. Their wealth will not follow them into the grave. When you see they, just cross they out and put when I die, and then I will take nothing with me, because nothing that you have is going with you past the grave. Matthew 23:12, but those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves, they will be exalted. Why do we give? What's the motive behind our giving? And do we give to be recognized by others so that we are lifted, so that even in a very sneaky way, we get the glory? You know, I was watching some basketball from overseas, and I was a little thrown because I saw names of companies on these jerseys, right? Companies are paying for the space to advertise. You see it in minor league ballparks, especially, where the entire outfield wall is covered with advertising. Now, there was a time people supported the teams because they loved the team. And I'm sure they still love the team. But they want their support to be seen so they can benefit from it. Now, here's what's interesting in the kingdom of God. When we give, who is really getting the glory from our giving? I was in a workshop many years ago, and I have to tell you, it changed my life. It changed my perspective. It was at the Billy Graham School of Evangelism, and the brother who was teaching the class was teaching a class on how to build a church to the glory of God. Well, I went to that workshop thinking he was talking about building a building and what are some of the things you need to look for and look at if you're going to build a physical worship structure. But he really challenged us in terms of how we built, in terms of whether or not it would give glory to God. And here's what he said. He said, when we buy things with God's money, when we pay for a window with God's money, or we pay for a brick with God's money, when we make a donation to the church with God's money, we're giving back to God what God has blessed us with. And then we put our name on those items. Who is really getting the glory from that building? Now, I got to be honest with you, I was shocked. And it wasn't long after that, I saw a really intended to be humorous cartoon, but it was really convicting. Because they had names across the pulpit, they had names on the back of the pastor's robe, on the windows, on every chair, sponsored by, and I believe it was the pastor who said something like, this sermon today is being sponsored by, and he named a business. And I kind of chuckled at first, and then I thought about it, and I thought about that workshop, and I said, man, who are we doing what we do for? Who gets the glory from it? My brothers and my sisters, I always want you to challenge yourself to make sure that whatever you do, especially when it comes to those who are less fortunate, that you make sure God gets the glory and not you. Because ultimately, everything that we do and everything that we say should be to the glory of God.
The word generous. Generous, giving, loving in both our actions and our attitudes.
Dr. D.Z. Cofield and Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church have taken the opportunity to bless thousands of families throughout the greater Houston area and around the world as they help rebuild communities from the inside out. Would you like to help us bring a hope that heals? Become a Hope Ministry partner with a donation that will enable us to impact people with the life-changing message of Jesus Christ. You can give by downloading the Givelify app and selecting Good Hope MBC, or send your gift to 3015 North MacGregor Way, Houston, Texas 77004. Partner with us today and help us change lives tomorrow as we take hope to the world. For more information, call 713-524-6578 or go to goodhope.org.
Now, as we close today, I've got to be honest with you. Man, that flesh is a monster. Don't fool yourself. Your flesh wants to be recognized, especially if somebody else's flesh is being recognized and you don't perceive their flesh to be near as good as your flesh is. What do you mean? Somebody stands up and says, man, I want to thank somebody today for all that they've done in my life. And your flesh automatically starts thinking, man, what did I do? Well, I certainly appreciate them wanting to take the time to thank me. Well, they can't be thanking me, but they should be, because I'm really a nice person. Matter of fact, I have blessed their life. And it's not even about you. At the end of the day, you've got to make sure you crucify that flesh so that out of everything, to the best of your ability, it's God that gets the glory from everything you do.
Good Hope would like to invite you to attend our Bible study Wednesday at noon, corporate prayer at 6:30 p.m., and Bible study at 7 p.m. Care is provided in the evening for children ages 3 years old to 5th grade. Dr. D.Z. Cofield explores pain in the raw.
Man, those broken promises can be devastating.
Dr. D.Z. Cofield digs in where others shy away.
I mean, there's people right now who are grown, who still live with the scar of a broken promise of a dad who said, I'm gonna come pick you up.
Watch Dr. D.Z. Cofield on the Cube, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and Sundays at 6:30 a.m.